Welcome back, TCS TV viewers. Chris Niccolls here from the camera store, and today we're going to be playing with the Canon G7X Mark II. Now, this is the kind of camera that we got like one or two of in the store. They went out to customers, and then we didn't see them for months because of that earthquake in Kumamoto, Japan. It really delayed a whole bunch of cameras. We now finally have it back here, so we're going to talk about it and review it. And this is an eagerly anticipated camera because this whole industry of micro cameras with 1-inch sensors has exploded. They're all over the place. I'm eager to play with this today. Now also, we spoiled you with our last video there at Heritage Park, such beautiful locations. I'm sorry, but we're back on the streets of Calgary as usual, but that's okay because this kind of camera is perfect for this kind of scenario. Now, you may have seen our earlier video where we took the original Canon G7X and compared it against the Sony RX100 Mark III, and we did that because Canon was just very directly targeting that small compact camera. In fact, they made the G7X to be almost identical to the Sony in every way, shape, and form, but there were still a lot of things lacking, and the Canon lost that battle. Even though we got a lot of hate for that, we still stand by it. I mean, first off, that front ring, if you remember, it always made the clickety sound. Terrible for video, terrible for manual focusing. It was annoying. The other things too, we always found it was just slightly softer than the Sony. It definitely did not focus anywhere close to as fast, and the Canon did not have an electronic viewfinder, even though it was at the same price point. I mean, these are huge omissions, and even though we got a lot of hate for it, we really didn't like the Canon G7X. So what we're hoping now today when we play with the G7X Mark II is that they've addressed some of those issues, hopefully made this camera at least as good, but why not better? I hope so. I'm going to try it out and see if that happens today. Alright guys, so just shooting some of the nice light that we're getting here. One thing I want to say right off the bat on the Canon G7X Mark II, so the metering is just perfect. I mean, they're multi-segment metering, it's giving us a great histogram, we're getting a really nice collection of shadows and highlights, so overall, very pleased, very comfortable with it. So far, I haven't had to touch the exposure comp dial, and that has actually been placed in a really nice position. With the grip, my thumb can easily turn it. I feel like they've maybe made it a little bit stiffer, so it's good, it's positive, and I don't feel like it's gonna move on me. I'll see if I do end up at +2 or -2 by accident, but I don't think so. So here's one really nice improvement. Now this front ring, it used to just have to make the click sound, but we've got a selector here now. We can click that and you can either have the click stop, which gives you a sort of auditory and tactile response, which is nice for aperture, but then you can also click it for smooth, quiet function, which is ideal for manual focus. So that's a really nice improvement. We do also have a ring here on the back. This is one of my only complaints on this camera. It is very small, so turning it, you have to be fairly accurate. It kind of sticks a bit. It does work as your four-way controller, and I would say actually I haven't had a problem with accidentally hitting the four-way controller while trying to turn, but it is small, it's a little bit hard to move, but it's better than nothing. All right, so I've been shooting with the G7X Mark II here, and I'm actually really enjoying the handling overall. First off, the grip is fantastic. I mean, it is way better than any Sony. It's just secure, feels great, very, very natural. The screen now does the downward angle articulation. That's a new improvement over the G7X. I'm liking that. The camera, at first, when you look at it, it's got this very aggressive, bulky kind of look to it, but actually, compared to an RX100, they're exactly the same size. So for practicality's sake, this will be just as easy to transport. The buttons are feeling good. The dials are nice and snappy. The focusing shutter button, it's very, very quick touching, just sensitive. You just put your finger on it and it starts focusing. And I've been really liking that, but in order to take a photo, you've got to commit. So I'm not getting any surprise shots or mistakes, and yet my focus is very, very positive. Overall, the camera is just feeling quality. It's handling really, really well, and I'm enjoying it. But you know, handling is so much more than dials and the body feel and stuff. It's also just how intuitive the camera is to use, and I'm really enjoying this as well. You know, the Canon menus are always simple, and the camera just operates the way you want it to. It's kind of that feeling of saying, okay, what's natural to me is to touch this and then move it over here, and it just works. The touch screen's great, all the controls are easy to use, everything's very logical. I love the quick menu, easy to bring up either with the touch screen or the button. So overall, guys, you're gonna find the Canon very straightforward, very intuitive. You're never wondering what kind of combination do I have to do to make this work, or where do I have to find this? And that says a lot for a camera. It's a huge plus. So one thing that's a little bit baffling on the Canon here is this back dial by default does absolutely nothing. Look, I'm turning it, no response. If I go in here and I set my custom ring function, I can then set it to do something else. So for example, I've got ISO on the front dial and this now becomes AV. But I wish that I could target it for something else. I wish that I could set this back dial to be manual focus or ISO and then have the main ring still as AV, but it just doesn't seem to give you that option. If you want to have two functions, you're going to have to do it the Canon way. Now at the heart of this camera, we still have a very standard 1-inch sensor. We've got Canon's 4.2 times zoom and 1.8 to 2.8. I mean, that was one really nice advantage. It's a fast aperture lens with a great range. Overall, image quality wise, nothing new. I mean, this is going to be very similar to the Sony, very similar to the original Canon. We've got the Digic 7 processor, but we're still finding that Canon's JPEGs tend to have a little bit of softness when you push the high ISO. You know, they're classic processing. You know, the RAWs look good, highlights you got to watch for, but dynamic range overall is quite impressive. And again, I'm loving the metering. It's giving me my shots pretty much exactly where I want them to be to change exposure and push shadows. Overall, this is very, very similar to what you're going to get out of the 1-inch cameras, and really, really nice combination for just walking around, travel, street shooting, anything you want a small camera for. So just rounding out some of the features I like on the G7X Mark II. Of course, you got our pop-up flash here, but I can pull it back and I can bounce it off a low ceiling. Nice 45-degree angle, that's a nice little touch. And also when it comes to the charger, the Canon G7X Mark II has now changed to a USB charge. You can charge batteries right in the camera. Now, a lot of our customers are frustrated by that because you don't get an external charger with most cameras, and that's really frustrating if you buy a second battery. How can you get them both going, or how can you shoot the camera while you're charging a battery? Well, the Canon G7X Mark II gives you an external charger. And what I also like about the USB charging capability now in the modern era is, yeah, if you go traveling and all you have is your phone charger, it'll work in here. Or if you're doing a time lapse and you want to run the camera off an external battery, you can do that here. These are really nice features. Now, they do also advertise the battery life is better, and I'm sure it is, but you know, after shooting a couple hours now here, my first battery's almost exhausted. So if it is better, great, but it's still not fantastic. All right, guys, so we're gonna do our usual weather sealing test here, like I always like to do with cameras. Here we go. Oh, okay, no. Okay, Jordan's flagging me to say don't do that, so I guess this camera's not weather sealed. I'll take a drink instead. Now, autofocus performance is something I was really eager to try because the original G7X did a pretty poor job. And now with the Digic 7 processor and time going by, I was hoping that it was better here. And I'm happy to say when it comes to one shot, the G7X Mark II is vastly improved. It's beautiful, it's snappy, it's predictable. You know, the touchscreen's great. I can just touch anywhere on the screen and it goes right there. I can track moving subjects, and it does actually a really good job there as well. So in that regard, where you're going to use it 99% of the time, beautiful. And when it comes to continuous AF, unfortunately, it's just not quite there yet. This camera does strange stuff. I mean, you look at our footage here, sometimes it works beautifully. It's predictable, it does what you want it to do, follows moving subjects, but often, especially if there's a big distance change, the Canon G7X Mark II just stares at the screen for a few seconds, doesn't figure anything out, just kind of wobbles a bit, and then eventually decides, oh, I should probably focus now. Unfortunately, it's so random, you just can't rely on it, so try it out, but it's not something that I would use in a big situation. This is not going to be great for a lot of sports shooting or event shooting, but for casual stuff, it does a great job. So I want to show you guys a beautiful model in front of some autofocus highlights just to show off the lens. And then I realized I can selfie on this camera and I'm the most beautiful model in Calgary. So let's take a picture of myself. I definitely have to give it to the Canon lens and the G7X Mark II for delivering beautiful autofocus areas. Really nice bokeh, just very soft, very, very natural. So that's a big plus. And again, with the 1-inch sensor and the fast lens, you can get some nice autofocus areas.
Hey guys, it's Jordan, the video guy. You can tell that because I'm wearing headphones. And you know, I really underestimated one huge market for the G7X when it first came out, and that was for vloggers, because it did have this nice touch screen. It had a very nice autofocus that smoothly pulled focus, and a lot of people jumped on it for that. Now, I was never a huge fan of that because honestly, you need good sound when you're vlogging. I think that's more important than a good picture a lot of the time. And there's no mic jack on the G7X, so as a result, I've had to put together this entire setup that we're working with right now. This is the flexible, practical vlog audio setup for anyone. You know, this may seem a little bit ridiculous, but I take sound seriously. I always tell you guys, sound is more important than video in a lot of situations, and I believe in practicing what you preach. Now for a 1080 camera, video quality is actually quite nice on the G7X II. Very sharp, crisper actually than a lot of their DSLR cameras. And you do get 60 frame per second recording, so you can do a little bit of slow motion if you want. The main thing I really love is you've got the option to disable that clicky wheel, so I can use it for pulling focus or just have it silent when I am rolling. So G7X II, I could see using it as a small little B cam on something, but it's not ideally suited for that. You've got the Sony RX100 IV, and that gets you super slow-mo, 4K, and log recording, so it's gonna match better to other cameras. And if you're using it as your primary vlog camera, and the audio in this is just its real Achilles heel. The built-in mic, it's okay, it's better than some, but it's certainly not great. And you're gonna have to do separate sound sync, which I'm gonna have to do with this kit. And honestly, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. If you're looking for a primary vlog camera, I still think the Panasonic G7 is the best bet. It's a little bigger, but you get a microphone jack in that, 4K recording. I think it's a much more versatile camera. This guy here, I mean, I just don't see a major point for it when there's so many great options out there for under $1,000.
All right, guys, so we're going to finish our urban adventure here, but you know, overall, I actually really enjoyed the G7X Mark II, and I think lately what I've been really impressed with the Canon cameras is just an overall handling and intuitive kind of improvement in their models. They're a joy to use, they're not confusing, they're straightforward, and when you're shooting, there's a lot to be said for that, especially if you're a beginner or you just want to have the most simple, easy, enjoyable kind of interface possible. You know, we're not getting a lot of big changes here. These are, minor improvements. Canon looked at what was wrong with the G7X, like that clicky wheel, and they fixed it, and that's great. To their credit, that's a fantastic move. But overall, we're still not getting features that I am missing. I mean, a viewfinder would be a big one there. Maybe it's to protect their G5X model, because they don't want to hurt sales in that, but really, let's be honest, who are we competing against? We're competing against the RX100 Mark III still, and that camera's viewfinder for the same price. I mean, look at our Sony RX100 Mark III demo. It's just beat all to hell. It's been in the showcase for a couple of years now. And that's really the thing, is just that Canon's had all this time to come out with a camera that's way better, to blow the Sony out of the water, to make something that people are gonna prefer hands down over those cameras. But instead, in all this time, they've simply made a camera which now competes on an equal footing. There's still no viewfinder on the G7X Mark II, and I think that's a big loss. I really like that. The Sony's gonna have that, but then the Canon's got the touchscreen, and I really like that. So if anything, guys, who's this camera for? Anybody looking for a nice, compact, pocketable camera, you've now got a couple good choices. You could go the Sony, you could go the Canon, and they're both gonna be on equal footing. Overall though, guys, I did enjoy this camera. It's intuitive to use. So don't forget, check us out on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, check out our feeds, let us know what you think. Check out our Facebook page. We've got all sorts of stuff for you guys to look at. And until next time, think about a small pocket camera like G7X Mark II. I'll see you guys soon.